On our first video, we showed you how to true up your jaws, just for quick, doing it as a daily practice, and that's something you'll always need to do as you build cues. Even some of the high dollar chucks and all will not turn true, just like they come, and every time you chuck something up in them. So now let's say you got new jaws you've put on the lathe. They'll come to a point when you get them. So you will need to bore those jaws down, and you'll have to get them concaved out to where they'll hold up to 1 3/8 inches, because that's the common size on your butt material and all. Well, we've already looked. This chuck had several thousandths run out in it, like it normally chucks stuff up. Its first chucking on that rod, it always come out 6 or 7 out, 5 or 6 thousandths out, 6 or 7, somewhere in that neighborhood. But we were able to true it up to where we could do quality work with that. But if you start to get a little further out than that, you're going to want to bore your jaws. This is something you just have to do sometimes during the life of your lathe. So I've got a little bit different setup on my dial indicator. I mounted it to where it could go over in front of my boring bar. And the reason I did this and made this one just for setting lathes up initially is I don't want to have to remove this bar or move where I've got it set when I bored, in order to come in and check the run out. You could put a dial indicator up on top of your headstock by using a little extension on the parts that come with the one I send out. But I want to roll this back around out of the way, and then we've already seen the chuck has a little run out in it, so we want to put this in. And when we run this in, we're not going to chuck the silver part. We're going to chuck this back part. This part right here, this metal part of the jaws, we're going to put on. We're going to chuck that right down on it. Push that in from the back, because we want when we bore it, we want to be able to barely miss that. Okay. This camera stands kind of in my way, so it's making it a little bit awkward to do this today. I'm usually able to stand right where this tripod is standing. Okay. So now we want to flip the lathe on, and we want to run it pretty fast. I want to show you 2 more things you need to do. You want to make sure and snug all this up back here to where everything is good and snug, nothing's moving. You also want to lock this or snug it up, this center gib on your cross slide, this gib screw. That keeps it from wanting to back out and give you some tapered jaws while you're cutting. So we're going to run this up, and I'm going to run it in and barely touch the inside of the jaws, because I don't want to get much of a cut. All right. Always make sure you have your safety glasses. You should be wearing safety glasses all the time, no matter what kind of work you're doing in the shop. All right, see, barely touching. See, and I'm using 2 hands to where I can get a real smooth feed. I don't really like the power feed for doing this because it seems to run a little fast, and I like to listen to this last little part. You can hear the sound. Now it's being quiet. That means that it stopped. Now I don't want to do a trail back cut once I've got a full pass on these. I want to do all my passes going inward. Looking at the jaws, it looks like that they almost all touched. So I want to dial in. Bring it back to me just a little more. Now this boring jaws is a lot to feel because they don't always come out right the first try, but only do inward passes because you don't want that trailing cut coming back out the other way. And also each pass that you do as you go in, it will just start to make them smoother and smoother to where you don't have real rough looking jaws. So it sounded pretty smooth while it was cutting. And then you want to blow this out. And I like to wipe the jaws down to wipe the any grit or anything in them out. Then we take and open it up. I knock that piece on through the back. We'll come back to that in a minute if we need to. Now, I want to make sure that I have no grit or anything in there. Make sure your dowel pin is clean. I can feel a little grit going on in there. Wipe that off here. It's one thing when you want to chuck something up good, put a light pressure on it and rotate it around. Now that feels like that's chucking pretty good. So let's move this over here. You're wondering why I've got this big ferrule on the end of here. That's to where I can check the run out on threads. I want you to look at that. See, now that dial indicator's hardly moving. First checkup, we're within a 1/2 thousandth. Leave this one alone. A lot of times it takes 2 or 3 tries. You know, you just got to get a feel for it and use your ear. When you hear it sounding like it's just a real smooth buzzing hum and you've went in several times, at least 3 or 4 times, you'll start to feel it cleaning it up. See, now we have a thing that's chucking just right. So you should have no problem getting a ferrule or anything like that moved over in here to where it turns true when it's already chucking this true. And that's pretty much it for boring jaws. If you want to do a steady rest that has a chuck on it, what you do with it is you set the steady rest right here. Move this back here, and then you take a longer rod of this material and you chuck it up in your chuck after you've trued this one up. Stick it out. Use your dial indicator to flick it over. Make sure it's turning true. Then lock the back part of your jaws of your steady rest chuck down on it, and then you can use this to spin your steady rest to bore it. For a deluxe lathe, because it has a rear chuck, what you have to do is take the front plate off the headstock. If you want to bore the rear chuck, you turn the whole headstock around. That makes it to where the belt can go through the front side, which will be on the back of the lathe then. And then that'll put your chuck over here on the right side to where you can bore it. You don't want to take it off, put it on the front, bore it, put it on the back. That defeats the purpose. It might not spin true. You want to bore it on the exact threads that it's going to be on. Now, another thing, if you get a new chuck in and you put it on your lathe, you need to make sure that your chuck is on really tight. Take your indexing pin, move it back here, lock it in to where it can't move. Put this in the solid part of your chuck, rotate it on there, make sure it's really tight. I guess that's all there is for boring jaws. If you use your little push-over method, or you can take a piece of plastic and you can tap the edge of your jaw right there to center one of your jaws up. Either way you do it, you always want to do quality, precision work, and your lathe is capable of doing that if you just have a feel for things. So if you'll follow these couple little things I've showed you here of how to get the chuck turning true with the boring, but normally you don't need to do that. You just need to push your work over. Well, God bless you and happy cue building.